On this North Shore News, President Obama pays a visit to those who lost their homes to the flood, and we report on the last river to crest after the recent flooding.
Also ahead, communities of different faiths come together to help those affected by the flood. And stay tuned to find out what may be the cause for flooding on the North Shore. North Shore News starts right now. Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Brianna Young.
And I'm Nancy Peck. After the recent flooding, President Obama paid a visit to Baton Rouge to support those affected by the flooding. The President of the U.S. took a tour in Zachary, a city in central Baton Rouge that took more than 2 feet of rain. Obama's trip put a spotlight on Louisiana, bringing the state's tragedy to the eyes of the media. Many residents previously complained that there wasn't enough attention before the president's visit. He assured the Louisianians that the country is here to help.
Now, federal assistance alone is not going to be enough to make people's lives whole again. So I'm asking every American to do what you can to help get families and local businesses back on their feet.
During his visit to Baton Rouge, President Obama also visited the family of Alton Sterling and the police who died back in July.
Even after President Obama has sent aid to Louisiana during the flood, Governor John Bel Edwards traveled to Washington, D.C. on September 14th, requesting an additional $2.8 billion on top of the funding provided by FEMA for flood relief. Edwards initially asked for $2 billion on September 8th, but increased his request for funding when White House officials made it clear that Louisiana could get more relief funds than what he was asking before Congress left for its month-and-a-half-long break. On September 22nd, Senate only approved $5 million in flood relief for Louisiana. Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy says that this is just a down payment until after the November 8th elections.
After taking on more than 2 feet of rainfall in only 3 days, the Amite River was the last of many overflowing rivers to crest. Here's Amanda Kitch with the effects of the river's flooding in French Settlement, a small community in Livingston Parish.
French Settlement residents are slowly beginning to deal with the flooding's aftermath. When the Amite River began overflowing, residents were not quite sure what to do.
Everybody flooded. I mean, not everybody, but so many people that's never flooded before has flooded. So where are they going to go? I mean, this is not normal.
The river crested at 9.21 feet in French Settlement, almost 2 feet higher than the previous highest level recorded in 1977. The river did not drop below the 4 feet flood stage until 10 days after the flooding.
This flood here reminds me of Katrina in New Orleans when the levee broke. That's what this reminds me of. So much water come up so quick, the people didn't have a chance.
Despite flooding damage at the station, the local police force was hard at work, rescuing about 80% of the town's residents by boats and military vehicles when the water rose.
We have a boat. Myself and my deputy was here, his boat. We went and got people out of here.
Once residents were rescued, they were dropped off here at the St. Joseph Catholic Church. From here, they were transported in busloads to temporary housing.
The church served warm meals to residents and first responders for weeks after the flood. During the first week of September, the church was converted into a temporary primary care clinic to meet the urgent medical needs of the town.
As far as the community, whether the town hall doors are open or not, this community is going to be great. I mean, you could just look around and see everybody is donating their time.
Recovering from both the March floodings and the August floodings, French Settlement hopes to bounce back as soon as possible. For North Shore News, I'm Amanda Kitch.
With the Amite River back at normal levels, French Settlement residents are working on the town's recovery.
August is that time of year when merchants begin planning for the holiday shopping season. But in Denham Springs, those plans had to be put on hold as the rain began to pour. Jody Scafidi reports so much rain fell that floodwaters overwhelmed 90% of the city's business sector.
Devastating floods are known all too well in Louisiana when hurricane season arrives. But for the people of Denham Springs, this was a punch in the heart on not only their personal belongings, but their livelihood.
We set a cap on a budget, and this maybe has to be amended, but just for debris removal is about $4 million as it stands right now.
With stores like Walmart and Home Depot closed for remodeling, the city will suffer from their sales tax. Fortunately, there are other options available.
We still have our utility sales, gas, water, sewer. We still receive property taxes, permit fees, licensing, occupational licenses and such.
As pieces are being picked up and put back together, the city has collected 11 days of sales tax revenue.
The city itself is up and running. Our fire department is in service, our police department is in service, City Hall is in service, though it has moved to a different location.
Nearly 30 years have gone by since Denham Springs was hit with not just one flood, but two. Although the city is in shambles, it's taking the city as well as surrounding areas to merge as one to build Denham up again.
Denham will recover. The citizens plan to stay here. The stores plan to reopen.
With stores expecting to reopen before the holiday season, it's stressed upon to shop locally now more than ever. Reporting for Northshore News, I'm Jody Scafidi.
Mayor Gerard Landry says that Walmart and Home Depot are responsible for 40% of Denham Springs' sales tax revenue.
The Great Flood swamped 1/3 of Livingston Parish's 45 schools. This caused the school system to close for one complete month, longer than any other parish in the state. Carnisha Tassin has more on this story.
Floodwaters severely damaged 15 of the 45 schools in Livingston Parish. Superintendent Rick Wenzel says the school system spent $20 million just to get the schools cleaned out.
Well, our goal is to get those schools back up and running. We still have got architects that we're getting ready to hire to look at those buildings to make a determination on what needs to happen with those buildings in regards to reconstruction.
A total of 113 school buses out of 318 sustained water damage. The superintendent says the school system is currently leasing buses for students, which costs $15,000 a month.
We have taken those buses and we're trying to figure out which buses we can save, which ones we cannot. At this point, we have 58 buses that are total losses.
Walker High School was one of the lucky schools to not have been affected by the tragic flooding in Livingston Parish. However, faculty members and students were.
At Walker High, we necessarily wasn't affected by the flood. Our parking lots filled up with water, but 26 of our teachers were flooded, including myself. We also lost somewhere around 40 buses, and then we had multiple roads that are washed out. And just yesterday, they closed one of the major bridges on Highway 190, one of the major roads in our parish, and also through Walker. So we have two bridges that are currently out. So to get from one place to another or to get down certain streets, it's going to take some time.
Walker High teachers and students helped gut faculty homes and also other schools that were affected by this flood. Walker teachers says that they are excited for their students to come back to school.
As far as we know right now, everyone is coming back. Now, many are in different homes. We have people commuting further away than what they were before, but everybody's coming back and we are excited. We're excited for them to be back. So,
for Northshore News, I'm Carnisha Tassin.
Livingston Parish schools reopened 1 month after the floods on September 12th.
The historic flooding turned one of Livingston Parish's most popular attractions, Jubin Crossing and its 21 businesses, into a wasteland. Johan Castro reports it's not a pretty sight at the shopping destination these days.
Of the establishments in Livingston Parish affected by the flooding, Jubin Crossing has arguably been the hardest hit, as most businesses still have yet to reopen in the area.
We had to replace a lot of stuff, all kitchen equipment, tables, booths, and whatnot.
Walk-Ons was among the businesses in the complex, suffering significant physical damage to property. Many employees had to be relocated to other Walk-Ons locations.
We had I estimate about 80 to 85%. So they all live in this area in Livingston Parish. Only a few lived in Baton Rouge, so even they were kind of affected. So. We did help them out. They were able to pick up shifts at our other two locations at Baton Rouge, at Burbank and Town Center. We had a lot of help with them. We got them to come in here and help with the cleanup process, getting the kitchen back together. So there was a lot of opportunities for them.
Poche also believes that the financial damage from the flooding has been rather significant.
Besides being closed for the 3.5 weeks, I can't give you a real estimate, but it's pretty significant.
Jubin Crossing is just one of the many establishments here in Denham Springs that have been adversely affected by the recent flooding. Owners and managers alike know that it'll take some time before things truly get back to the way they were.
As a whole, there haven't really been too many timelines for all the other places, Academy, Rouse's. This really just guesstimates, probably November, December. I'm thinking the whole place will be pretty much back up to speed.
A jewel of the Livingston Parish community, citizens can only hope that this beautiful shopping area can rebuild itself into the masterpiece it once was. For Northshore News, I'm Yolan Castro.
Besides walk-ons, a second store, Verizon, has just reopened. For more information about store reopenings, visit www.jubincrossing.com.
The Great Flood of 2016 had a major impact on both the Baton Rouge and Central areas, causing catastrophic damage to homes and businesses. Courtney Williams has more on how Baton Rouge residents are recovering to get back on their feet.
The Great Flood of 2016 is being described as one of the most damaging floods in Louisiana history. 9 parishes in southeast Louisiana were impacted, including East Baton Rouge Parish.
The parish had about 52% of the parish was underwater. So in that 52%, we had over 57,000 homes were flooded, and which affected over 100,000 people. And somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 businesses were included in that number.
Now, weeks after the flood, residents are cleaning their homes and throwing belongings on the curb with memories they now leave behind.
Central Louisiana was one of the hardest hit areas of the Great Flood of 2016, and as you can see behind me, there's still a long way to go before residents get back to normal.
95% of homes were flooded in the city of Central. It's been challenging for residents trying to balance both rebuilding their homes and working at their jobs.
Sometimes stressful with trying to go to work and run my office, plus the normal day-to-day life activities and things of that nature. We were blessed to be able to have somewhere to go. We're staying in an RV that my uncle brought, which is in the parking lot of the funeral home.
Some officials predict Baton Rouge and surrounding areas have sustained billions of dollars in damage. Amid the uncertainty of the area returning to normal, residents are hopeful they can rise above this traumatic event. For Northshore News, I'm Courtney Williams.
So far, sanitation companies have made one debris sweep through flooded neighborhoods. More pickups will follow, and officials predict it will be years before total recovery is achieved.
The floods, described as the worst natural disaster since Hurricane Sandy, surged through southeast and south central Louisiana. As if floodwaters were not bad enough, controversy arose in some areas as donations started coming in. Maria Goddard investigates this story.
I lost everything, and it's hard. It is so hard. And I don't know where we're gonna go, what we're gonna do. You know, and it's hard being in a shelter.
Hunton's home is just one of over 60,000 damaged by the flood. After the survivors were taken into shelters in the surrounding areas, community donations started to pour in. However, Beth Yancey Houghton wrote a Facebook post that reached nearly 200,000 shares and sparked outrage. Part of it read, 60 boxes of donuts were discarded this morning because the delivery vendor was not in contract, hot meals were refused because the entity providing wasn't contracted, and medical supplies including medications were trashed for the same reason.
It's unfortunately simply not true. The real story behind that is that those donuts were basically repackaged, we made sure they were safe, and maybe just a few were thrown out that were deemed a possible health risk.
Despite the allegations, some say the Red Cross is meeting their needs.
American Red Cross gave us hygiene items.
Woodruff stressed that client safety is the #1 concern.
We will never turn down or throw away anything that is usable as long as we're comfortable and confident that it's safe.
Houghton was not the only one who disagreed with Red Cross actions.
I've seen them turn away diapers, clothes, blankets, stuff that was brand new.
On the other hand, the Red Cross explains that perception is not always reality.
a lot of things come in and it can be a little bit chaotic, but we're always going to do the best that we can to make sure that any resources that come in are not wasted.
For now, the survivors' next task is to find housing in hopes of ending their time inside shelters. For Northshore News, I'm Maria Goddard.
According to Woodruff, the best way is to give by volunteering or by donating money so that the Red Cross can allocate funding where it is needed. To do this, visit www.redcross.org or text LA Floods to 90919 to donate $10.
The Great Flood of 2016 swamped over 60,000 homes in Louisiana. Aaliyah Sims reports on the housing aid available to those without flood insurance.
What we see in here from my house is a lot of years. You know, collections of different things, a lot of years.
Ruby Jackson has lived in Livingston Parish for over 40 years and never flooded. Years of what residents accumulated throughout their whole lives gone in a matter of hours. Some are left with little to no possessions, no transportation, and nowhere to live. FEMA is offering temporary housing for those impacted by the flood. FEMA's Transitional Shelter Assistance, better known as hotel assistance, applies to those having to live in a car, hotel, mass shelter, or a place of employment. FEMA pays for rooms on a 30-day basis. The Shelter at Home program provides residents $15,000 to live at home while their homes are being repaired. The program is not designed to fully repair a person's home. FEMA's manufactured housing units are another option. It's relatively spacious, from 1 to 3 bedrooms. They can be placed on existing property or private property. Although many feel the mobile homes are a great idea, the Mayor Walker disagrees.
I've been begging, preaching, demanding that FEMA bring in reduced size housing units that can be placed in the driveways of the individuals trying to rebuild their homes.
The Mayor Walker believes getting reduced-size mobile homes and placing them in individuals' driveways will allow residents to repair their homes quicker, secure neighborhoods, place revenue back into the town, and increase the workforce.
It really makes no sense at all for FEMA to be sticking to the ideology that they need to bring in full-size mobile homes. It defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do.
Louisiana has rolled out 3 plans to assist flood victims on the road of recovery. Visit FEMA's website at fema.gov to find out which option works best for you. For Northshore News, I'm Aaliyah Sims.
So far, 56 families have been approved for temporary housing units, and almost 500 more households are awaiting approval.
After the devastating floods in August, religious organizations bonded together to provide relief to flood victims. Reporter Tara Barbe explains.
When floodwaters rise and cause untold amounts of damage, many people turn to their faith for strength. Several churches sent in volunteers to strap up their boots and start to rebuild. One faith-based organization, Face It Ministries, set up a distribution center at the old Piggly Wiggly in Springfield to help.
Well, we're giving them, cleaning supplies, and water, you name it, whatever they need. That's how we're helping them right now. And they're actually coming through a line with cars. It's the only way to pick up here. You have to have a vehicle. And so they'll pull through a line and we put the food in their cars.
Approximately 1,400 members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are spread out across the North Shore to help people gut their homes.
We have lost everything. I lost yearbooks for my kids and diplomas. My husband and I living here, there, and yonder. My daughters, one place, my grandson somewhere else. So we're technically homeless right now.
As people return home, they find themselves looking for the most basic needs. Our Daily Bread is providing food to thousands of families in the area. The organization basks in the joy that comes from each one of the families they serve.
But I do it because I care. And our motto is a scripture verse that Jesus said, pick up all the pieces and let nothing be wasted, and to feed the poor. So that's why I do it.
With the help of religious organizations, Louisiana is slowly rebuilding and easing the discomfort of those who flooded. For Northshore News, I'm Tara Barbe reporting.
For more information on local organizations providing relief efforts, visit www.redcross.org. Some expecting mothers are taking precautions against the Zika virus because stagnant water may pose a mosquito threat as waters have now receded for the most part. Reporter Jadian Daniels has more information on this story.
It's hard for me to go out enjoy myself much.
Now that floodwaters have subsided, some residents are concerned about the mosquitoes that follow sitting water. Expecting mother Alexis Williams speaks about her concerns.
My main concern is what mosquitoes carry. We don't know what mosquitoes actually carry the virus, so it makes you actually be scared to go outside.
Though the Zika virus can be transmitted to both men and women, expecting mothers are to be more concerned about sitting water with the effects the virus can have on unborn children. Taking extra measures to prevent mosquitoes is imperative, Dr. Robert Peltier says.
So the floodwaters that hit recently, that's not stagnant water, that moves. When it drains, there is water that sits, and that's the problem. All mosquitoes, and everybody's heard about making sure old tires are disposed of, and those kind of things.
Simple things can prevent mosquitoes from invading our area.
Pregnant women should be concerned for a number of reasons. They shouldn't be more concerned than they were last week or the week before with the floods. Wear repellent when it's appropriate to wear repellent. Some repellents are not okay for children under the age of 3. You should know that as well.
According to Dr. Peltier, even a small cap full of water can breed hundreds of mosquitoes. To avoid mosquitoes, use repellent, remain aware, and remember, mosquitoes also bite during the day, not just at night. For Northshore News, I'm Jadian Daniels.
Dr. Peltier believes the mosquito that carries the Zika virus will not migrate to Louisiana.
What started as a raining morning ended in a national disaster as high water displaced several 100,000 Louisianians from their homes. Heather Rogers takes an in-depth look at the cause of some of the flooding in Hammond and other areas.
Many thought that fateful Friday morning was just another rainy day in South Louisiana. Then the water started pouring into homes. In some places, the water was as high as 10 feet, and thousands were stranded.
We were expecting to get some rain, right? And in Louisiana, some rain can be a lot of rain, and we usually just go on with our day. And all of a sudden, the water's rising.
Houses that never flooded before saw their rooftops peeking out of the water. Still, with no place to go home to as they sort through the wreckage, residents move forward.
There's a pile that is almost as tall as the house behind it.
Whether to rebuild or start over somewhere else is a question that many are having to face.
We should expect to see that with the displacement, some people will be moved to different places. I mean, people don't even have cars right now.
Some people have temporarily relocated to Hammond while they rebuild. So how did Hammond fare so well in the flood?
Downtown Hammond has a good example of green infrastructure. Once you get out of downtown Hammond, you start to see that cookie-cutter suburban development, which creates the conditions for flooding.
According to the mayor of Walker, Rick Ramsey, this highway divider served as a dam, blocking the natural flow of storm water, causing over 5 feet of water to flood thousands of homes.
It's much more economically efficient for developers of these subdivisions to just clear cut, wipe it out, level the ground, which is also problematic in leveling the ground like that because it takes away the natural downflow of water.
Approximately 60,000 homes flooded. The value of these properties may decrease, but one thing can naturally prevent flash flooding in suburban areas.
Trees are super valuable in mitigating floods, especially native trees. And when we build parking lots and mini malls and all that stuff, it can't be in this way where we just deforest an area and lay down cement, right? Because that really leads to a lot of flooding.
As a result, homes and businesses flooded in hours, causing some people to rethink the way South Louisiana's infrastructure was built. For Northshore News, I'm Heather Rogers.
The 1,000-year flood has some looking for answers as to why their homes took on so much water in just 2 days. As a result, Walker Mayor Rick Ramsey said he may sue the federal and state government for building the dividing wall along Interstate 12. Had the wall not been there, Ramsey believes some flooding could have been avoided.
Websites all over the internet are raising money to support Louisiana's recovery after the flood. GoFundMe has raised more than $7.6 million for Americans throughout the country, a record for the crowdfunding platform in disaster. There are more than 5,000 campaigns set up through GoFundMe in order to help Louisiana flood victims. The company has selected 159 campaigns to donate $1,000 each.
After the break, Southeastern students help clean up local communities after the flood.
Stay with us.
Welcome back to Northshore News. Due to the August flood, the start date for Southeastern's fall semester was pushed back 3 days. This didn't mean students extended their summer vacation. Many took the opportunity to lend a helping hand to flood victims in the greater Hammond area. I was fortunate enough to tag along with a group of student volunteers.
An hour later, we started seeing it rising, and within 20 minutes, it was on us.
Independence resident and former Southeastern employee Judy Easterly reflected on how quickly the water took over her home. This was the case with many people as the historic flood of 2016 made its way across South Louisiana on August 12th and 13th. Because of the widespread effects of the flood, the university quickly focused its attention on flood relief in the community. Communications professor Dr. Amber Narrow set up an event where students could volunteer to assist in the recovery process, named Lion Paws on Deck.
Well, it started off with the fact that classes got postponed, and so Southeastern decided to do something where they'd organize all the students together. I think that's like a perfect way to handle the situation.
The volunteer event was intended to be for one day on August 22nd, but it turned out to be much bigger.
Southeastern emailed all its students. They blasted it on Facebook, all of their social media outlets, so it was really easy to hear the word and just come help.
Because of all the positive responses, the event extended to August 23rd and 24th, with over 100 students volunteering each day. Volunteers met here on campus, and they were split into groups and given supplies. Then they were given the details and locations of their job sites. Students exhibited the courage of a lion and worked hard to help the community. Volunteers were left humbled.
It's just a lot of sympathy. I've been there before, and it was when I was younger, so especially when it happens to you when you're younger, you kind of learn to empathize with people that go through this a lot more. When you see it on the news, it's easier to understand, and I think for a lot of folks around here that maybe haven't gone through any kind of storm-related trauma, it's something that's kind of eye-opening and will maybe hopefully mobilize them to do a little bit more charity work in the future.
Despite the devastation, one thing is for sure. Locals believe that they will recover, rebuild, and move forward. For Northshore News, I'm Nancy Peck. Those who benefited from the days of service flooded Southeastern's Facebook page with appreciative posts. After the break, find out about some scam messages that are floating around since the flood.
Stay with us. Welcome back to Northshore News. FEMA is now warning aid applicants about phony text messages that have been circulating to get personal information from flood victims. The text messages appear to be from FEMA representatives, but FEMA says it rarely communicates with applicants via text and that flood victims should not disclose any private information. If you receive such a text, call the FEMA Disaster Assistance Line at 1-800-621-3362 to verify the text.
That'll do it for this edition of Northshore News. Remember, you can watch on-demand video or send us your stories at our U-Report link or visit northshorenews.tv. I'm Nancy Peck.
And I'm Brianna Young. Thanks for watching.